Hello and welcome to our webinar. Today we'll be talking about QuickBooks and why it delivers less than CFOs may think and need. Before getting started, a little bit of housekeeping. On the bottom of your screen, you'll see quite a few application widgets. Feel free to resize and move those as you need to maximize your desktop space. The slides will advance automatically, so there's nothing for you to do there. But if you'd like to maximize the size of these slides, please click the Enlarge Slides button, and that should be located at the top right-hand corner of the presentation window. I encourage you and look forward to asking any and all questions throughout the presentation, and you can do so by entering those questions in the Q&A box. We'll try to answer these questions as best we can throughout the webcast, but if we don't get to your questions, we will answer them directly over email. So let's get started. I'm Scott Friedman. I'm Director of Product Marketing here at Sage Intacct, and I'll be moderating today. And I'm joined by two fantastic experts. First, Kristy Facchini. She's Chief Financial Officer at AutoClaims Direct, and she has been a past QuickBooks user and a current Sage Intacct user, so she'll be able to provide all sorts of expertise and real-world experience with both those applications. We're also joined by Audrey Trin, who is Sage Intacct Senior Product Marketing Manager, and Audrey will be able to share her experience talking to legions of customers, as well as sharing some recent research that we did with the industry. So a big thank you to Kristy and Audrey for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott.
So I thought I'd just provide a little bit of background. Sage Intacct actually partnered with CFO Dive to conduct research, and it consisted of over 160, survey of over 160 financial executives that are QuickBooks users to look at their attitudes toward technology, what their plans are, and in particular whether QuickBooks is meeting their current needs of themselves and their teams. So we'll be able to share some of that research with you today. We also have a report and a more detailed write-up, and we'll go from there. One of the things that I was really excited when we did the survey was the robust nature of the engagement and the information that survey participants gave us. So I'm going to kick it off with you, Audrey, to ask you why you think the topic and the questions were so pertinent to these QuickBooks users.
Thanks, Scott. So it matters a lot because CFOs have been experiencing a time of transition with the role significantly evolving. And digital transformation is a priority across CFOs' organizations. For example, 65% of financial executives say the organization's digital transformation journeys are at the point of implementing proofs of concept or beyond. And CFOs are also becoming more and more prominent in technology decisions when it comes to digital transformation, in part because CFOs know where the data resides and why it has to be brought together. And proof of concepts haven't made it to the finance function, as many organizations have long-term relationships with QuickBooks. And then just a couple more data points here is that 48% say that the organizations have been using QuickBooks for 3 to 5 years, and another 22% say that they have been using it for 6 to 8 years.
Yeah, I found that striking too. And do you think that long-term relationship with QuickBooks will make them more loyal and less likely to switch?
Not necessarily. Today, finance executives need to be really forward-thinking and embrace technology advancements. At ACD, we operated on QuickBooks shortly after its founding in 2003 through until about 2013. And initially, it was through an outsourced third-party bookkeeper.
And just because they're using QuickBooks doesn't mean that they're happy with it necessarily, for reasons we'll dig into in a little bit here. And 37% of financial executives are actively considering switching to a solution other than QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online.
So they're willing to switch. What are some of the frustrations that are influencing these CFOs and their teams? What are they actually experiencing?
Yeah, one of the big pain points is the over-reliance on Excel, from what we've heard from our customers. 75% of financial executives say that going back and forth between their current software products and Excel to get the information and then reporting needed in their daily work is a source of frustration. It's time-consuming to their financial teams.
I would agree. Prior to implementing Sage Intacct, ACD had a completely manual process for paying hundreds of independent appraisers that we work with across the country. We had a proprietary system, and that system would feed Excel, where we would compute, and congregate all of the actual invoices that were owed to each one of these vendors. And then, in summary, it got entered into QuickBooks to print a check. The use of Excel introduces the potential for, data input errors, cell referencing errors, formula errors. And using Excel for reporting can also be labor intensive as these inputs change. The combination of printing, stuffing, sealing, and applying postage to this 350 to 500 checks we did every 2 weeks was really unsustainable. It limited our growth potential.
So how did those processes change when you implemented Sage Intacct?
The bill entry and payment process is super simple today. It takes all of about 15 minutes to handle what used to take 3 days to up to a week of one person's time. One of the things we did was we put our entire vendor network on direct deposit. And from there, we integrated the proprietary system that we have using Intacct's web services so that it feeds directly into Intacct on a claim level basis. And it allows us to capture specific claim information that we ultimately use for reporting purposes. In Intacct, it has an integrated Notcha file development, which we can grab and directly integrate or upload into our bank portal. And that eliminates rekeying. It helps us maintain security over our vendors' banking information. And all of our vendors are paid now via ACH. And the beauty of Intacct on the back end, as soon as we're able to confirm that payment was uploaded successfully to our bank, we push a single button and all of those vendors receive an automated email saying, you just got paid, this is the amount you were paying. So our vendors are ultimately very happy as it relates to, their ability to know how much they're getting paid and to be paid consistently on time in an automated fashion.
Yeah, that's great. We had mentioned earlier, I'm going to direct this at Audrey, that there are new pressures continuously facing CFOs. I imagine that real-time reporting and other insights are important for those changes. What are the sort of changes that we were starting to see in some of the industry surveying that we had done?
Yes, that's what we're hearing across all of our customers time and again. And so 29% of financial executives report that the main pressure finance departments or CFOs are currently experiencing is the increased expectation to provide insights to their C-suite and to have it on demand as well. And then another 23% reported the increased expectation to work across silos and collaborate with other departments.
From my perspective, that increase, CFOs and finance executives have always had data at their fingertips, but the ability to extract that data easily and manipulate it or provide it back in a understandable fashion to the users of the business, whether it's the CEOs or other business departments, is, extremely important in today's world. What we did to help facilitate that is we implemented a dashboard, and initially we threw up just some basic reports to get people used to using it. And then, what I found is the CEO would call and say, hey, Kristy, I need this, or where are we at this situation, or what's happening here, or where are we trending? And so what I started to do is kind of dissect what he was asking on a recurring basis. We built out reports or modified existing reports and put those up on the dashboard. And what I found is, he could actually started logging into the dashboard. He had real-time information on what was happening within the business that he could make real-time business decisions on. And as a result, what we found is, the calls went down, productivity for the department went up, and really the increased level of sophistication and understanding of the data that was driving our business was at everyone's fingertips.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that with those dashboards and reports, we often refer at Sage Intacct about dimensions. Now, Audrey, I was wondering if you could tell us how granular you can get with this reporting and what dimensions are about.
Yeah, great question, Scott. So you can actually get very granular with Sage Intacct's dashboard and reporting. With the dimensional reporting, you can slice and dice your data. And Sage Intacct enables you to tag transactions as well as operational data with dimensional values. You can also tag with dimensions instead of assigning transactions to hard-coded individual accounts, which then enables you to add business context to your data easily. And then once you create a dimension, you can use it for any transaction: intelligent general ledger, receivables, payables, time, revenue management, and more. And it's really all about tying the disparate data together into a system that can support all of it in real time, and then also allow you to build your report, like what Kristy mentioned, to slice and dice by dimension to really pull up what matters to you and your business, and even from an individual role base. So being able to see all of that data from a top level across all your locations, or even drilling down into these individual metrics at those locations that matter most with you, can help you make better business decisions.
Yeah. We love the dimension aspect. It's probably one of the main reasons we purchased Sage Intacct and implemented it. You know, it had a lot of out-of-the-box dimensional capabilities that allow you to do reporting across, you know, AR, AP, general ledger, which was phenomenal. But it also had the ability to create your own and customize some. So that was really helpful for us, because there's some metrics, you know, within our industry that it's important to track across APGL, AR. And so we were able to do that as well. One example that we did early on, I think it was one of my first board meetings, I had cobbled together some information from different sources to be able to look at margin reporting, not just by customer, but by business line. And, you know, everyone was like, wow, how did you get this information? Well, you know, as we implemented Sage Intacct and I got to start using a lot of the reporting capabilities, I realized that that report I could easily create, could be populated and updated and put on the dashboard. So now we have the ability to track, you know, not just that metrics, but others on a real-time basis, and have leading indicators. So when we see something going one direction or the other, you know, we have the ability to jump on it really quick.
That's wonderful. Those stories are really great to hear. I know that data accessibility was on top of mind in some of these survey participants. Audrey, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what we were seeing.
Yes, it is. So 29% of financial executives report that data accessibility issues are a challenge today, and 27% report that a high occurrence of imbalances and troubleshooting is a challenge. Then we have 26% report that too much manual data entry and re-entry is a challenge, and 26% report that upgrades and maintenance is a challenge as well. Also, finance departments still have room for process improvements and transformation. So 23% of financial executives say that greater flexibility to adapt current finance solutions to new business processes would benefit the financial function most. And then 18% say that minimizing the need to go back and forth between financial software and spreadsheets. And 18% say deeper insights via reporting and dashboard, with 17% say achieving faster access to reports and insights being important there.
And I saw in the report that there were 91% of people identified as very important or somewhat important that technology solutions that their organizations invest in are cloud-based. And I think that is something that we embrace as well. You know, the ability for a cloud-based system to, you know, link into APIs or into proprietary software solutions that companies possess really allows the data to flow faster. It takes out a lot of human touch, which can create errors, but really it definitely gets you to the end product that you're looking for faster. And in this environment where we're seeing more and more workers go into a remote environment, you know, the ability to access the tools they need to do their job in a cloud-based is almost a necessity. So I see that 91% growing even higher than that as we continue to move forward in this remote type environment that is embracing technology solutions.
That makes a lot of sense. I think cloud is definitely the future. One of the things we were also seeing in the survey, and I'll direct this question to Audrey, was how long it's been taking a lot of the survey participants to conduct close. I'm kind of curious, I'm assuming a lot of their process really isn't that automated. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about what we were seeing in their responses, Audrey.
Yes, so the monthly close is one large area we hear time and again where QuickBooks time-consuming processes are slowing the finance teams down. And so 50% of financial executives reported that it takes 8 to 14 days to complete the financial close every month. And this is all problematic for organizations because achieving a continuous close is important. If you don't know what your cash flow situation is like at any moment's notice, how can you make the investment decisions?
Absolutely. We actually embrace the continuous close. It's a big leap for many finance executives, but once you do it, it's so amazing for the organization. And specifically what I mean by what we've done from a continuous close is we've opened up the books and records and created visibility into the finance function. And so on our dashboard in real time, our CEOs or particular users of departments can see their P&L and the balance sheet come to life. So as a transaction is coming in via the proprietary system, revenue is posting within seconds of that transaction being completed. As a bill is processed, or as something that is automatically debited to the bank, it's coming in real time and populating that P&L. And you've set up rules where you've matched, this vendor comes in under this GL account. So the functionality of the cloud-based solution and the software specifically really allows for that continuous close. There's not, we used to always hold off and say, well, I got to make sure all the banks are reconciled and I've got to do all of these things. But, Sage Intacct has a solution that you can reconcile the bank in real time, honestly, on a daily basis, if that makes sense for your company. So you don't need to wait to the end of the month to have financial reporting. The continuous close is going to start continuing to gain ground as we move into the future.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's really exciting. I know when we were talking to you earlier, Kristy, you were talking about other ways that you're applying technology and automation to your process. Can you talk a little bit further about some of those?
Yeah, in every industry, you have specific, data or fields or information that you need. And one of the things that we did is when we went into implementing Sage Intacct, we really identified what is the end result that we need to get, whether it's the end result to the CEO from an information or the end result to a customer. And in some cases we were able to, or in this case in particular, what we did for our customers is they needed a lot of information about a claim in order to process it for payment. So we created customized data fields that captured all of those pieces of information, and utilizing the API and Intacct Web Services, we drag in those on a claim level basis, populate that. So when we're turning around and invoicing our customers, they have everything at their fingertips, which really turns payment processing around really quickly. And it's a differentiator in the marketplace. Not every customer has everyone has the ability to do that through their software system. And so we've really elevated our presence in the market with that offering.
Yeah, that's great. I'd like to turn to the types of questions and what people should potentially think about when they're evaluating their existing financial management software and where to go. Maybe I'll start with you, Audrey. What should they think about? What are the questions that they may want to ask themselves?
Sure. So a few questions that we have organizations ask themselves are are your processes inflexible? Do you have a lot of manual data entry and re-entry that's taking up a lot of your time? It's manual, it's laborious, error prone. And do you have limited access to reports and information, or is it taking you a lot of time to pull up these reports? And also, what controls do you have in place around your financial processes in terms of approvals and audits? Depending on how our customers answer, we can help uncover pain points and see how a solution like Sage Intacct might be a better fit than the system they're using right now.
And I would advise them to look at their processes and find out which processes are dependent on people. In today's marketplace, there's really no guarantee that the person who's been there for 10 years is going to be there tomorrow. So it's very important in this dynamic workplace to ensure that you have process-centric functions, not people-centric. And so, lean into the accounting systems and make sure the capabilities are there, and be prepared to evolve your processes to take advantage of the automation capabilities that software solutions provide today. Also, I'd look at, some of your Excel worksheets. What are the manual processes around that? What are people entering? And understand, like, what is it that you need to run your business? What are the data components? And make sure you're capturing that as you move into a new system, and capture it in a way that it's repeatable. Like my example earlier about, reporting back to customers some key information they need. It was thinking in advance when you set up the system about what it is they needed, and making sure you created a custom field for that, and you added it to the right, screen in the system. I think that really will be critical to developing processes that are sustainable and solidify systems.
Oh, that's great. Thank you both. Those are some great insights. I'm looking at the clock, and I'm going to look at our Q&A chat box to see what we have submitted. The first question I'm going to direct to you, Kristy. Someone wanted to know, how quickly was your organization able to get up and running with Sage Intacct? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it actually led us to select Sage Intacct. That was one of the other criteria, was our ability to get up and running quickly. Some of the other people we looked at, had a minimum of 3 months, and what we were told by Sage Intacct was, we can run as fast as you can. So if you are prepared, you come in and you're willing to, you've kind of thought through what you want to do, we'll guide you to there, and we'll keep you moving, and we'll allow you to hit those deadlines. Our specific example, so we started the search process to identify someone in early November. We made our decision around Thanksgiving, and I had mentioned earlier kind of that ACH process. Our first ACH, we needed scheduled to go out on January 31st, was the first cycle that we needed to hit. So we had a really tight window to not only get everything in place in the system, but to make sure our processes were tight that would allow us to hit that deadline. And I can report that we did successfully hit that deadline.
That's great to hear. Thank you. We have another question. I think I'm going to direct this one at Audrey. They want to know some examples of how companies actually use dimensional reporting in practice.
Sure. So one of our customers, Mobscene, a creative agency that produces motion pictures, leveraged Sage Intacct's dimensional reporting to determine how much revenue was brought in. They were able to slice and dice by genre, by producer, by location, and this enabled them to make future-looking business decisions based on which area to invest in and which areas to cut. And not to mention, with this feature, they were able to then go to their board of directors and get their buy-in as well, based on the data, the real-time data that they found.
Oh, that's awesome. We have another question I'm going to ask, is being asked, I think, Kristy, this would be best asked to you. They're wondering if you have any plans to change or expand your use of Sage Intacct into other areas.
We do. Billing actually comes to mind. When we first implemented Sage Intacct, we leaned into our proprietary system, which was doing the billing for us. But, as the marketplace evolves and changes, what we've recognized is that, we're becoming limited by that proprietary system because it's not an accounting system. And Sage Intacct has all of that functionality already built in, that to have, a dynamic pricing model that can be customized by customer for different geographies. Like, you can really kind of dive into how you can price your items or your services. And so we're leaning into, we're going to be moving that direction, because that will allow us to really release some capabilities that we haven't been able to do before because we've had limitations in the system we developed.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Kristy, and thank you, Audrey. I'm going to wrap things up here. If you submitted a late question and we didn't get to it, we will be answering those questions after the webinar directly through email. So don't worry, we'll definitely still be getting back to you. But that's about it. We're out of time. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you to Audrey and Kristy. And today's webinar will also be available on demand. So if anyone wants to go back and review anything that we talked about, you'll be able to do so. And thanks for joining, and we'll see you on our next webcast. Goodbye.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
You.